Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. It is time for the War on Gaza report. Today, we give you the latest in Israel's war on Gaza. Unlike corporate media, unlike mainstream outlets, we tell you the stories, we give you the information, we offer the latest reports and the deepest analysis that demonstrates exactly what's going on in the Gaza Strip and in Palestine more broadly. And today, Israel's war on Gaza has reached day 215. That's right, 215. And we begin, as always, with the numbers. At least 34,844 people have been killed, and 78,404 people have been wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. The death toll in Israel from Hamas's October 7th attacks stands at 1,139. And of course, there are dozens of people who are still held captive by Hamas. Those numbers remain strong. Those numbers remain consistent. And sadly, the death toll itself, the pace of it has not lessened. It has not waned. And the reason it hasn't waned is because we continue to see people murdered. We continue to see famine. We continue to see dehydration. We continue to discover mass graves. We continue to see refugee camps, hospitals, schools, masjids, churches, community centers, all destroyed. The infrastructure of Gaza has been destroyed. More than 70% of the buildings have been destroyed. Most of the wells have been destroyed. All of the universities have been destroyed. All of the schools have been destroyed. We are looking at every sort of demonstrable piece of evidence that shows genocide. So, of course, we're going to continue to follow this because we have a duty to prevent genocide. We have a duty to spotlight genocide. We have a duty to provide evidence to the world community as journalists, as analysts, as citizens. And that's what we're doing here. And that's why we always begin with the numbers so that you can see that not a single day has passed where Israel has not killed Palestinians in Gaza. People are going to say, well, we're at war. Well, being at war is one thing, but being at war doesn't absolve people of their responsibility to follow international law, to follow humanitarian law and rules and customs, and to not contravene any of it. So when we see the Israeli military stand up and carry out Netanyahu's vision, carry out the Israeli military commander's vision, which does not seem to be a war against terrorism or a war against Hamas even, but instead becomes a war against the Palestinian people. And the evidence of that is that Benjamin Netanyahu is consistently stating that he's going to invade Rafah. For those that don't know, Rafah is right now the most populated city in all of Gaza. It has 1.5 million people in it. It's in the south, and it seems nearly unavoidable at this moment that Israel is going to do a ground invasion of Rafah. Now, this ground invasion is going to cause a humanitarian crisis. It's going to cause almost immeasurable damage, immeasurable harm, immeasurable violence. And the world is saying, don't do it, Israel. Even Israel's most staunch allies like Germany is saying, don't do it. The United States is at least whispering now, don't do it. But the biggest piece of evidence, the biggest pushback against Israel came from President Joe Biden today. I don't know whether it's just the election cycle or whether he's grown a conscience or a spine or a heart, but President Biden stood up and said that he will not supply offensive weapons that Israel could use to launch an all-out assault on Gaza. President Biden said the U.S., and this week was the first week where the U.S. refused to deliver munitions that would lead to more violence in Gaza. Biden said civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of these bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. Now, the specific question he was asked was about a 2,000 pound or 900 kilo a bomb sent by the United States to Israel. And so when Joe Biden, who identifies as a Zionist, when Joe Biden, who says there'll never be an inch of daylight between the United States and Israel, says, look, we can't send you weapons because it's just too many are being used to kill people, or these are too dangerous. When you hear that, when you see that, you know things have gone far, and you know just how far these things have gone. I see people saying still not voting for him. Look, I'm not going to get into that part of it right at this moment. That's on y'all to decide. But I can tell you one thing: Joe Biden's decision to even do this is a direct response to the fact that people are threatening not to vote for him. It's a direct response to people saying, we're uncommitted. Joe Biden understands. Now, maybe he also was tired of seeing people dying. I can't say that he's not. But what I can say is our efforts, our energy on the ground has mattered. Joe Biden's not doing this if we don't say anything. So please know, those of you who are protesting, those of you who are encamping, those of you who are writing, those of you who are voting, those of you who are organizing, that the work is happening and it's working. But just a little bit more about the Rafah situation. Tens of thousands of displaced, terrified, and exhausted Palestinians have packed up their belongings and have fled Rafah. And the reason is because the fighting between Hamas and Israel has intensified in the eastern part of Rafah. And the aid organizations are all saying this is a looming catastrophe. So what do you do? There's a catastrophe looming. There's fighting. So you leave. The problem is Palestinians don't have anywhere to go. There's no infrastructure. There's no support. There's no safety. That's why the most urgent priority has to be a ceasefire. Now, according to U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Hamas and Israel are not far apart on a ceasefire. And he said, quote, they should do what they can do. They should do what they can to get a deal, to get to a deal. The problem is, from where I sit, Israel doesn't want a deal. They don't want any deal that prevents them from being able to invade Rafah. Because invading Rafah creates more dislocation. It allows them to push Palestinians down into the Sinai, maybe never to return. It allows them to do what they like to do, which is, according to Israeli officials, mow the lawn every few years, engage in these kind of violent incursions that lead to a shrinking of the Palestinian population in Gaza. And we're seeing that over and over again. Last night, we saw it. I don't want to just talk on the policy level. I want to talk about actual sort of strikes here. 4 people have been killed and 16 were injured just last night. Again, 4 people killed, 16 injured as a result of an overnight Israeli bombing of a residential house in Tel Sultan. Tel Sultan. Tel Sultan is west of Rafah. Israeli helicopter gunships have fired missiles toward the Azaytun neighborhood, which is south of Gaza City, where artillery shelling and gunfire from advancing Israeli military vehicles was also reported. And then you have the Sabra neighborhood, which is south of Gaza City, which was reported to have been hit by sustained Israeli bombardment overnight. So we're seeing just hit after hit after hit after hit. And this is a problem. This is a problem. And that's why a ceasefire is urgent. That's why a ceasefire is necessary. We have to continue to cover it. We have to continue to tell the truth about it. Anyway, that's our report for the day. Please check back every day for the War on Gaza report. We're at day 215. It breaks my heart that we've had to do this 215 days. But the truth is the truth, and we're going to continue to tell it. Shout out to some people here. Sherilyn Hill, Shar Gund, Mila K Collection, and Nader Afshar. All of whom became members of the channel. They became Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube subscribers or channel members today. And I'm grateful to each of you for your support. Thank you to everybody who has made this happen and who continues to make it happen. Next up is night school. So as soon as this session is over, as soon as we end this, the report, please log into night school right here on YouTube. We got a lot going on. We got a special guest. We have some major updates about what's going on in Palestine as well as elsewhere. Let's get it going. We're going to get started right now. So I'll see you later. Peace.